Hey guys, Rob here at 3D Printscape. Today I'm going to cover the process of installing OctoPrint on a Linux OS. This is common if you want to reuse an old laptop or something, or if you have just a Linux install on another device and you don't want to, or you can't use like the OctoPrint image. You'll want to follow this process. I went through and kind of set everything up in a nice format. I created a web page on my site with all the instructions, so you can just copy paste the different commands that you'll want to use. But we'll go through all of that when we get to the install process. First, let's talk about why you might want to go this route versus just using the image. Let's say you have an old laptop, like I mentioned earlier, or you have a Raspberry Pi and you want to be able to use it for other things than just having it tied to your printer. You can have Raspberry Pi OS or any other Linux distro on that, and then still run OctoPrint and use it when you want, but still be able to do other things with it. Like if you wanted to do any type of retro gaming and stuff on there, as an example, you'll be able to reuse that device instead of having it dedicated. So I guess really the biggest advantage is it gives you options versus just having the one image on there. The disadvantage is there's a little bit more to set up, but all you really have to do is be able to connect to the device with SSH and then run the commands that I have on the site. So it's not that difficult. I've already done all the legwork for you, but there is more to it than just putting the image on the SD card and plugging it into the device. Alright, so before we get started, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe. It'll really help this channel grow and spread the video. And let's go ahead and jump over to the computer and walk through the install process. Alright guys, so we're here at the computer. I pulled up my site where I have all the install instructions we're going to be going over. I list out the assumptions, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And then I have all of the commands that I used in text boxes so you can copy them out without having to worry about formatting or anything. And if there's enough people that are interested, I can also make a script that runs through all of this and just does the setup start to finish for you guys. I didn't want to spend the time on it if it wasn't going to be much interest, because it would probably take several hours at least. Alright, so first let's talk about the assumptions. I'm assuming that you already have Linux installed on whatever you're working with. You have a user created that's named Pi. If you don't want to use that username, you can swap out that for something else, but then you have to modify the scripts below, assuming that the account's going to be different. Here's an example where I'm referencing a home directory. So if you don't want to go with Pi, you will have to find any reference to home/Pi and change it out with whatever name you're going with. I didn't variabilize this because it's really just a bunch of text boxes, so it wasn't able to work that way. I'm assuming that you're logged into the account as that user, and that user has sudo rights, and that you're using a device kind of like a Raspberry Pi or something similar that has USB ports. It doesn't have to be a Raspberry Pi. It can be old laptop or whatever the case may be. But if you're going to want to connect it to the printer, you're going to have USB ports, and that you know the IP address of the device, which if you're working with an existing machine, you probably would know the IP address, but that you are going to need to connect to it. I also cover setting up the USB camera in here. If that's something you don't want to do, you can skip it, though it's not much extra work, so I would recommend if you're considering it in the future, just go ahead and set it up now while you're in there so you don't have to worry about it in the future. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with the install. I'm going to go ahead and pull up PuTTY and SSH into my machine. I'm going to go ahead and put my IP address in here, and then go ahead and connect or open, and then I'm going to log in as Pi, and then put the password in. It also helps if I can type. Alright, I'm going to kind of put this off to the side here so I can just do a lot of copy paste. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is run updates. So I'm just going to copy these two commands and paste them in, hit enter. Now this will take a minute or two, and then it's going to prompt you to accept the upgrades. So you're going to have to hit Y to accept them, and then it will take probably a couple minutes, if not longer, to go through the actual updates. It just depends if your machine is up to date or if it's an older image. And I will speed up the video for this part. Alright, that's done. It actually took a little bit longer than I thought. I did a clean install of the OS just so I'm working off of a base image. But we're fully updated. Now we want to go ahead and install the packages we need. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this over. Hit enter, and then hit Y to accept it. And this shouldn't take long. Now we want to set up the OctoPrint folder and then go into it. So I'm just going to copy this. And then we want to set up the virtual environment that OctoPrint gets installed in. So again, I'm just going to copy this out and paste it. And then we're going to actually install OctoPrint. All right, that's installed. And then we want to add the user to the serial port. So we'll just copy this. All right, now if you wanted to, you can go ahead and start the OctoPrint instance by just copying this and then browsing to the port, which I'll show what it looks like. This is really just a test to make sure that it installed properly. So that's starting, and you can see it running here. And then if we go and open up a browser to the IP address on port 5000, once it's actually up here, we'll just go and open up a new tab like I just did, and then go to port 5000. So it's going to be HTTP IP address :5000, and you'll see that it started up okay. I'm going to go ahead and not go through this wizard yet, so I'm just going to leave it open for now, and then close out of the OctoPrint service. We want to set it up so it auto starts, because right now if you close out like I just did, the OctoPrint service will not be running. So if we go back over here, it's going to be down. Now we want to set OctoPrint up to automatically start on reboot or startup. So we're just going to copy these and paste it into Putty again. And now if you restart the server, it will automatically start, but you can also control it with these commands too. You can just do sudo service OctoPrint start, stop, or restart, or status if you want to get the status of it. Next, we want to go ahead and set up HAProxy. This is going to make it so you don't have to put in port 5000 every time. And then it's also going to be needed if you want to use the webcam as well. So we'll go ahead and install the proxy first. Go ahead and accept that. All right, then we want to go ahead and update the HAProxy config file. So we can just copy that out and paste it in here. And then we will copy the content of this file and put it at the bottom of that. So we'll just copy that out, go over back here, scroll down to the bottom, and then just paste that in there. And then we'll save that with Control X. So if you look here, if you haven't used Nano, that means Control and then X. And then it's going to ask if we want to save it. So just go ahead and yes, and then enter. And then if you wanted to, you can make sure that it did actually write that to the file. If you wanted to just replace Nano with cat, it will display the contents of that file. This is where I noticed there were some differences between what they originally had in the instructions and what actually worked for me. But this is the working config that I have been using. All right, now we want to go ahead and install the MJPEG streamer that's needed if you want to use the webcam. Like I said, if you have any plans on using that in the future, I would just go ahead and install it now. It's not difficult. We're just going to make the install package. And then when that's done, you want to set that to automatically start. So just copy these commands. It's just making a directory called scripts under the Pi folder under home. And then we're creating a file for the actual daemon, which we'll go to in a second here to actually update it. So we'll just paste this in here. And then I will go ahead and go down here and copy the contents of this. And then just paste that in. and then go ahead and save it. So Control X, save yes. And I just want to verify that it pasted right, so I'm just going to cat that file, and that looks fine. Next, we want to go ahead and create the service for it. So we're just going to copy this command here to create the service, and then we'll be pasting this into that file. So go ahead and paste that here, and then go ahead and copy this over and paste that in, and then go ahead and save that. So Control X, and then yes. And then we want to go ahead and set that service to start on startup. So I'm just going to copy this. And then we're going to go ahead and reboot our device. Oops. And then we'll give that a minute to reboot. All right, then after you wait it like a minute, you can go ahead and restart your session here. Just go up to restart. And then if you connect it, it should be online. So I'm just going to log in. All right, now if we go back up here, we should be able to attempt to reconnect or just connect. And it came back online fine. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through the setup wizard. So just go ahead and hit next here. We're not restoring from a backup, so go ahead and hit next. Then I'm just going to create a username. And then hit create account. And then hit next. I'm going to enable a connectivity check. And then hit next. This is up to you. I typically don't send usage data, so I'm going to disable it. You can send it if you want. I do enable plugin blacklist, so I just go ahead and enable that and next. I'll worry about my default printer setup later. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit next. If you already know what you want to set up for the default profile, you can do that if you want. And I'm just going to leave that empty for now. And the stream URL, snapshot URL, and path for this one I have on my site here as well. If you want to just copy those over. You can do this now, or I'll show you where you can add them in later. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit next and finish. Saying please reload, so I'm going to go ahead and reload. Alright guys, so I did just pause for a minute. I wanted to show you two things here. First one was, if you were still connected before on port 5000 and you tried to get your streamer to work, you're going to get an error here. You're not going to see what's on the camera. And then I also made one slight update on the scripts. I moved the permissions down below creating the file. When I pasted everything in here, when I was setting it all up, I had it in the wrong location. But when you're walking through this, you'll see it in the right spot. I just wanted to point that out. All right, so if we jump back over to OctoPrint here, like I said, under control, you should see your camera here. If you didn't set that up initially, you can go up to settings and go down to webcam, and then you can put those values in that we talked about here before that I went through in the setup. So that's all there, and then you can do a test here as well. You should get the camera to show up. And then the last thing that I wanted to go over here was connecting to the printer. I have that connected, so I'm just going to hit connect. That should go through. I'm running a bug fixed version, so you're going to get your warning here because it's not an official version, but it connected just fine. If you're looking to set up multiple printers and stuff like that, I've got other videos I can show you, or a link to below, that you can use to kind of set that up. But this is the actual full process to get your printer set it up. If you only have one, that's all you really have to do. If you did have issues connecting, you might have to change your rates here. It should automatically pick it up, but if it doesn't, you can change that as well. It's also worth mentioning that if you don't have a data USB cable and the one that you're using is just for power, that it won't connect as well. But you can see here that it did connect. I can control the printer, and the webcam here is good. So no, I kind of covered a lot there. I don't want to go too much into the commands. I just made sure that they were all there for you. If you have more questions or think that there's value in me setting up that script, that'll set all of that up end to end for you. If I get enough interest, I'll go ahead and do that. But yeah, if you have any questions or run into issues, feel free to reach out on the website or on YouTube comments or even on Discord. All right, guys, so that covered the process of installing OctoPrint on a Linux OS. Like I said, the process isn't too difficult. I've got all the steps outlined for you. But if you have any questions or need help, feel free to reach out. You can do so on YouTube, obviously, Discord, or the website. Also, if you guys feel that there's value in me writing that script to set everything up start to finish, let me know in the comments. If there's enough interest, I'll go ahead and spend the time and do that for you guys. And if there are any other videos you'd like to see, go ahead and reach out. I plan on doing one on the laser engraving kit for the Ender 3 coming up pretty soon. I already got that. And then I want to switch over and do some more firmer ones with other options besides just Marlin. But if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, go ahead and leave a comment below or join us on Discord. Thanks.